students to Unit 3 of Fundamentals of Mechatronics Sensors. Okay, so what makes a machine a robot? Okay, as we have seen previously, sensors are very important in any robot as well as any machinery used nowadays in mechatronic system, that is in automation industry as well as in any industry where automation is required. So as you can see in this PPT, the sensing of the current situation, that is the leftmost diagram or image shows the JCB bucket which should be positioned where it should be. Okay, so according to it will plan the information, it's taken from sensor, and then accordingly it will act, and finally it will give you the output. Why do robots need sensors? As you can see in this diagram, there is a robotic arm placed and the angle required to do the work. The angle at which the robotic arm should be positioned should be determined initially, and that should be determined by where it should work, whether it is a pickup and drop robot or whether it is positioning robot or something else. So sensing. So sensors are the components which sense the different properties, physical, maybe thermal, etc. And in general, they are collecting the information about that particular world or environment. Means what is the temperature, what is the pressure, what is current, etc. So the definition is, it is an electrical, mechanical or chemical device that maps an environmental attribute to a quantitative measurement. Okay, so it will map means what? It will measure, okay, in some form of property. Okay, so any property, for example temperature, it will measure the temperature in quantitative type. So attribute mixtures are like often no one to one map, means there is nothing and there is one thing, or hidden state in environment. Sometimes there are certain properties, for example we can't directly sense the moisture in the environment, it is hidden in the environment, but with the help of sensor we can sense it. Then what is the basic principle behind sensor? Every sensor is based on transduction principle, means it will convert a form of energy into another form, right? So as we know the energy, basic law of energy, that energy can neither be created nor be destroyed, but it can only be transferred from one form into another. So that is transduction principle. So sensor works on this principle, also known as transducers. So you can see number of things we can use sensors for. In this diagram there is shown a maze and a robot inside it. So it will position itself according to the maze, whether you want to get out of the maze or whether it want to get inside the maze. So first one is like positioning, or we can say localization. Again you can see if there is an obstacle, as you can see in this diagram, that photo, that there is a red flag on the pole and there is a robot which is necessarily one golf cart. Okay, so the golf cart, while roaming around the golf course, it should not hit the goal post, or that is the poles. Okay, so they should sense the obstacles and they should avoid the obstacles. Again in this case you can see on the right side there is harvesting machine, or you can say a vehicle which is farm equipment, and on the left side you can see there are crops and there is a line, white line marked by the chalk powder. Okay, so that machine will guide itself along this chalk line in order to crop the harvests. Next is like forklifts. So on the left side you can see the white yellow rectangles. These are nothing but forklift holes. So the forklift, when it is automatic, means it is robotic, unmanned, or there is no operator operating it, it is operating on itself. So the sensors will sense the holes and the forks should go inside these holes to lift the fork. Okay, this feature you must have used in your smartphones as well while using a camera. Okay, so when the camera senses the faces of the people in front of it, it clicks the photos. Okay, so it is a face detection as well as tracking. In some cases it can be also used for uh, tracking purpose, means like safety, when you have to enter some highly uh, area. So moving on to next slide, types of sensors. So there are basically two types of sensors. First one, active sensor, and second one is passive sensor. So what is an active sensor? The active sensor sends the signal into the environment and measure interaction of the signal with the environment. Okay, so understand this, we take example of radar or sonar. So radar is utilized in aeroplanes and sonar is utilized underwater, okay, to detect the depth of the sea. So what there is done, ultrasonic waves are sent in case of sonar, and they strike or they have impact at the base of the sea and they come back to the sensor. So there is a sender and there is a receiver. So active sensors send signal and receive the signal, while passive sensors, they don't send any signal, they only record whatever present in the environment. For example, video cameras. Okay, so video camera, as we have used smartphones and we are using it, so we know the functionality of video camera, that it will only record what is happening in the environment. Okay, so active sensors are sending the signals and receiving the signals, while passive sensors only record the signals. Types of sensors. So classification by medium used. So what kind of medium they are using? First one, based on electromagnetic radiation of various wavelengths. So as the wave passes, whatever the wavelengths they are having, sensors can sense the wavelengths. Second, vibrations in the medium. Okay, for example, if you see, if there is an earthquake, then there is a vibration measurement which is called as a Richter scale, so senses the vibrations. Third one, concentration of chemicals in environment. So if you know that when we are using RO and we have to measure the various elements in that water, whatever the contamination is there, right? So all these we call it as a TDS. So while checking the TDS, there is also a sensor, so we can measure the concentration of chemicals in that water. And third one, by physical contact. So directly we are touching that particular object or human being to measure the sensor for to measure the particular property or characteristic. For example, temperature. So while temperature sensing, we can directly touch what we call as a thermocouple to that particular object. So types of sensors: exteroceptive and proprioceptive. Exteroceptive deal with external world, while proprioceptive deal with themselves. Extero means external, propriet means like internal or cell. So exteroceptive dealing with external world. So for example, if you say camera, laser range finder means there is a laser and according to that they will rotate or they will move. So external world they are sensing. Proprioceptive deal with themselves, for example, encoders, stretch receptors, or gyroscopes and INS.